Hi guys, I'm Mama Bear to Many. I am mom to 15 children. My youngest is in the actually the cardiac unit at Children's Hospital in Boston. And if you have not been following our journey, but I'm going to answer today how we are affording this all. I know some people have asked lots of questions. Some people have made like real raw implications on things, on how we're doing things. But I'm not one for those types of things. I'm just going to give it to you just how it is. So we have 12 children that still live at home, and they are 23 down to 2.5. And we have a house in northern Maine, and we paid off our house in 2022, so we don't actually have a mortgage on that anymore. My husband has a full-time job, and before I was doing YouTube, I used to do side things. I had like a little micro bakery out of the house. We sold like some fruits and vegetables on the side, sometimes selling animals, sometimes doing crafty things. For a while I had an Etsy shop when that was really like the beginning ages of doing things. So I always kind of did like some little side job. For a while I worked until I had my third daughter. Actually, I was in the pregnancy for my third daughter. I worked outside of the home. And then throughout the years, we've just done what works. So that is what worked. For a while, I did like Discovery Toys. When we were in Florida, I was in the process of getting my childcare license to do childcare in the house. And then my son got diagnosed with Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. So that didn't end up working out because we ended up needing to move. So I've always done some sort of maybe side hustle type thing, but not always. Like, so sometimes I would do something for 6 months, then not for like a year or two, like that. So sometimes throughout our marriage, I have been doing things, other times I have not. Trying to figure out the best way to like sit and video without having to hold on to the camera. I did something to my arm. I'm not quite sure what I did to my arm, but it is uncomfortable. I feel like maybe I have like a pulled muscle or something in this shoulder. So I don't want to try to multitask holding the camera in one hand and using like my shoulder to do anything else. So anyhow, back to what we were talking about. So we have these children, and when we found out about my son's pregnancy, he has trisomy 18, when we found out about his pregnancy and the potential that he was going to be needing extra care, or that we were going to be in the NICU. At that time, we thought we were going to be in the NICU in Bangor, Maine, and so we were kind of prepared to maybe like rent hotel room for a certain amount of time, or we were trying to figure out how we were going to have funds. One, before we went to any place that we went, we were having twice weekly to 3 times weekly appointments in Bangor. Bangor is 2 hours from our house. So we're talking about putting like about average like 500 to 600 miles on our vehicle a week. So that means that things go wrong. We need lots of gas money. So all those things. So we knew that extra funds were going to be needed. We do okay like with our finances on a day-to-day basis. My husband has an income. We pay our bills off my husband's income. And yeah, so I was thinking at that time, we found out, I think June. Yeah, I think it was June that we found out. And I was like, okay, we were at that point kind of thinking we didn't know. Are we going to need, we put our son who passed away in 2022, we actually ended up taking on a lot of debt. Originally, the funeral expense was $11,800, but then we had to put it on credit cards, so then it bumped it up. So we have that in like a payment arrangement plan because we took our credit cards and we put them into another like loan type program, and we are paying on that loan. So we were kind of thinking, if we were dealing with that scenario, we'll need funds for that. If we're dealing with any type of scenario, was going to cost money. If the baby was perfectly fine, we were going to need to pay, we always pay cash for our births at home. So we're going to need to pay cash for the births at home. If all those things, right? Copays, if we need to do copays, housing, food, all that type of stuff. So in June, I had been researching like how to get your algorithm or get yourself out there in the YouTube community a little bit. And a sweet woman, she said that for the first year, she posted at least 5 times a week, and that really seemed to like bump her up. So I started in, I think it was the end of June, posting at least 5 times. It might have been July. I'd have to go back and look. It might be July. I started posting at least 5 times a week, sometimes 6, most of the time 6. So I started posting very regularly, which is not, I know a lot of times people are like, oh, your videos, they're not great quality, they're not whatever. I understand they're not great quality, but when you're trying to get all of these videos out, it's very difficult to get everything edited to like a perfectionist point of view. Maybe when we get back to the house, then I might cut back a little bit on the quantity of the videos and give you guys better quality. That's what I am hoping for. But the quantity is actually what will have YouTube push your algorithm, like push you out there. I don't really understand all this stuff, to be honest with you, but you need YouTube itself to say this video is worth watching. Because if it's not put in anyone's screen, then nobody has a chance to like even look at it. And I'm not doing it like for the algorithm, but at this point, like when I was doing it in June, I wasn't making very much money at all. I was making enough to like pay for the extra gas, maybe pay for a gas tank a week. Something like that to get to Bangor. I was paying for gas for, you know, the extra gas one extra time a week or whatever for to fill one gas tank once a week. And that was a blessing. It really was a blessing. And I was okay with that because that's originally, I just wanted a little bit of like extra grocery money. I saw inflation coming, whatever. I was just like, okay, well, I think that I can give some things out there that maybe people don't understand. One, about large families. And I think that lots of people have like stereotypical type views on large families. So I wanted to maybe just share that everyone's not the same. Another thing is I wanted to share things that were related to homesteading and skills that have been going on for generations that I've learned for generations. I know there's a lot of bigger YouTube channels that are out there that act like they're experts in these areas. And some of them are great and they have great quality camera and they have great quality like things because they have one child or no children and they're able to do that. But they also don't have what comes with doing it for generations, not generations, doing it for years, right? So I've been canning for about 20 years now. So there's a lot that can be said to that. Maybe I'm a little more laid back than other people. Maybe I'm not. Anyway, so I have a feeling because I'm going on all these rabbit trails that this might be a long video. So at that point, I decided to do more videos, which was perfect in a way because I had a lot of homesteading stuff going on in July. And then in August, we did the challenge where we were canning and that was wonderful. And then September, we we were still canning. Oh my goodness, we were still canning and started doing some videos. Originally, I didn't want to share about Azariah. I wanted to keep that to myself because I didn't want to hear the negative comments honestly. I didn't want people to say, like some people say, you know, I can't believe that you're having this many children, and it's because you had this many children and because you're this age that you have a child that's like this. I know that every child that I have, God specifically placed in my family. I have no doubt about that. So I'm okay with him placing a baby in my family. I'm fine with him placing any baby in my family. People I've noticed on here were asking, "Hey, are you having another baby?" Okay, well, he's 2 months old and I've been in a NICU for 2 months. Are we open to having more children? We're always open to having more children. It wasn't about how many children can I have. It's more about being open to God's plan for our life. So anyway, we finances. I need to go back. I almost started telling you, like, I'm thinking of this other video that I want to make about our homestead and stuff. Anyway, finances. So I started doing more videos a week, and it started to pick up a little bit. You guys who have been here for a while, you guys have probably seen it really pick up. And after I told Azariah's story, I really felt like God was telling me to tell Azariah's story. And that was hard. I was like, do I have to, Lord? And I just felt this this nudge to do this. And I really think now, like seeing it, I think that it's blessed, and hearing from other people, I think that it's really blessed a lot of people. And I think that there's some people that might have made a different choice in their life because of him. And because they can see like God's faithfulness through our family. And I just think that's a beautiful thing. So, started sharing his testimony and going from there. Well, so the week, remember, if you guys have been here a while, we camped because my midwife was saying that she didn't want me to go into labor too early because we really needed to be at a hospital in order to deliver him, to give him a chance of life. And so we were camping outside of the city because my last daughter, which I had 2.5 years ago, she was born in about an hour and a half from real contractions to her delivery. So we lived 2 hours from the city. So she was like basically saying, if you're here, let's just see what we're going to do. I also was having some contractions here and there. So we camped at a campground, and we were all ready to, you know, do what we were going to do. And we had the twice a week ultrasounds. And when we went to that one, they thought that the baby had a diaphragmatic hernia, which would have meant that we needed to have surgery right away for his hernia. She said, if you want any chance for him to live, then you're going to need to go down to Portland, Maine. So and it's really weird because like I always felt on my heart that I kind of like, even in the beginning, once I found out that there was a chance of survival, I kept seeing this one surgeon's name. And in all these boards, just like generally, I kept like, when I looked up trisomy 18, I kept seeing this one surgeon's name. And he's at Boston Children's. And I was like, oh, that's really weird. And I said, me and my husband both agreed, if we have to go to Children's, then we'll have to go to Children's. This is a hospital that's far away. There's other hospitals in Maine. So we ended up, they had called in the Portland, and they couldn't get me in for, I think it was like 5 or 6 days. I can't remember exactly, but it was quite a bit out from when they could see me. So then she said, well, I'm going to transfer all your stuff down to Boston. And I said, okay. So she told me that morning that she was going to send my stuff down to Boston. I said, that's great. We'll go down probably tomorrow or the next day. We kind of decided then like we'd go sooner rather than later. So I found a campground that we were going to stay at, and we planned on going for the next day. Overnight, I was having contractions. So I was like, should I go to I remember texting this woman like throughout the night, who's also like a large family mom, and she was like, if I were you, I probably would just leave earlier to go to your destination that you really want to be at. So that's what we did. We did not stop to Vasco. We actually stopped about half an hour away. Once we got into Massachusetts, we stopped at like a rest stop, and I called to get in to be seen at Brigham and Women's. So that was a whole nother crazy story, but got into Brigham and Women's. And then, let's reverse just a little bit. Knowing that we had to go to Boston Children's, we went back, I didn't want to leave to go back to the house because I was having a little bit of contractions. I didn't want to like go into labor like on the way there. So we had somebody go to the house, and we pretty much took our whole emergency fund and went down to Massachusetts with it. So we put, I had got a campground, campsite or whatever for the week. And we did that to start off with, because remember, we're already camping. We have camping supplies. We're ready to camp. So we started doing that for the week. And then, so for the month of September, I had more views. And so I had a little more money. And this is just like totally God's faithfulness. So I had more views, had some more money, and then the day that we got down there, our minivan got stuck in the garage. And we ended up having to get it towed out of the garage and all the way back to Maine. That's a whole nother drama. If you go back to like our camping type videos around that time, I mention the whole journey of that. So the amount that I had got from YouTube for that month was just slightly over the amount that it cost for us to tow the van back to Maine. And we're just like, okay, praise the Lord. Like, thank you, Lord, for like providing that, because we didn't really have the funds to do that. So then the next month, now at this time, we're taking like our emergency fund, paying for the campground and those types of things, because we do okay financially. Our bills are paid, and that type of stuff, but we don't have like lots of excess. I think a lot of people nowadays don't have lots of excess. We do keep a smaller emergency funds in case of an emergency, right? So when we get back on track, that money's going to be a little bit more that we need to try to sniggle away. So we took a lot of our money too was actually going towards gas that summer, so it was hard to put more money away. So that was great. We were able to pay that, and that's the way the Lord works. A lot of times we don't always have like an excess of money, but I feel like there's always a way, like we try to always like think ahead, and yeah, I think that He just provides. So then the next month, we had Azar. Did we have Azar at that point? No, I think it was the last like few weeks. Yeah. So yes. So that next month, Azariah had been born. Things were kind of crazy. I'd gotten more, like a huge amount from YouTube. And not a huge amount. Basically an amount to cover the Cape House. And that was a beautiful thing. A beautiful thing. I mean, it was at least 5 times the amount of about 4 times the amount of the previous month. And it was just like, oh my goodness, Lord, like this is amazing. Thank you. So since then, and he provided that for that period of time, right? And since then, it's gotten less. But it was just like amazing to see that the Lord provided in that way, just for this, to handle that Cape house, right? Because that was the arrangement, that was whatever. And we were praying like, Lord, if it's your will for us to be together, to stay together down here, then make a way. And he did. He made a way like that. And then when we had our baby, my husband's HR actually asked him if he wanted to transfer. My husband never asked to transfer. They asked him. We didn't even know that it was possible for him to transfer. The HR asked him if he wanted to transfer. And he's like, oh, yeah, that would be great. We didn't know that it was even a possibility. We thought that he was going to have to go back. And we were trying to figure things out after the 6 weeks. We hadn't got that far yet mentally to be able to focus on that. So we just felt that that was the Lord doing that and providing that for our family. And I think that's just, it's the way the Lord works. It's such a beautiful thing. So since I'm getting less from my YouTube, but definitely more than I was getting before. And I'm trying to keep up with the amount of videos, which can be kind of challenging because I have so many things that I want to share with you guys, but I don't always have the space or the brain space to be able to share with you guys. I would love to talk about my journey with like having so many children. I'd love to talk about like pregnancies and that type of stuff with you guys, but my brain space can't always handle it. But I do feel like a lot of things are waiting up until this cardiac surgery. So I feel like things will change after we're back upstairs into the NICU and things are starting to change, that I'll be able to focus my brain space a little bit more. So, because I actually had a list of things that I wanted to talk to you guys about, and a lot of those things are still pertinent. So, yeah. So he's just worked it out each month. And do I know what it's going to be each month or whatever? No. Am I thankful that we found something that was off season and we're able to rent that? Yeah. The biggest thing is just resting in the fact that the Lord's going to take care of us. So we stepped out in faith to even rent something for 6 months without knowing if we're going to have the income to pay for those 6 months. But the Lord is showing us each month that he's providing each month. So we just need to trust in him. And sometimes it has to work that way. Sometimes it just has to be one moment, one step at a time. If you're like prayerfully going through something and you're feeling heavy, like this is what we need to do. And I think that that's what the Lord wants. The Lord wants us together. So as much as people say, oh, I think you should do this, or I think you should do this, even though it's a crazy time in our lives, I feel like this is where the Lord has us, and he has us here for a purpose. What the future holds, what the future looks like, I can't tell you that right now. I can't, but I can tell you that our hearts have been being opened for the past year or so, even before Azariah, to different things. And I'll share that probably in a different video, just like how the Lord's worked on our hearts over the past couple of years. Yeah, so that has been our journey, and I am just so thankful for all of your support and so thankful for sharing the journey with us. But I want you to understand that he can do it for you. Yeah. If you are going through a struggle, if you are not being wasteful, if you are doing whatever, ask the Lord. Ask the Lord. Don't beg the Lord to pay this bill and pay that bill and whatever, but ask the Lord what his will is for your life. Ask him to open that up and to share it for you. And it also means, right, it wasn't just the Lord saying, oh, I'm going to give you all this money. The Lord gave me discernment in June to start doing more videos. The Lord years ago gave me discernment to work outside of the home for a season to help pay off our mortgage, because we lost our jobs when my son died. So it's like you have to be open with what the Lord has and listen if he's trying to teach you something or trying to show you something. My husband got a second job. He worked at McDonald's. Literally, he worked at McDonald's after I was done, because I worked a seasonal employment, so we could pay off our mortgage, because we're like, let's just get this mortgage out of the way. And he's like, yeah, after you do that, then I'll work at McDonald's for a little bit. And he had applied, so we rearranged things around. So he was working 2 jobs and I worked that job. And yeah, it was just a crazy time. Literally, that was like right before my son passed. And then right after he passed, within, let me think, 2 months, we were able to pay off the mortgage. We had brought it down so far. Yeah, so sometimes you just have to rest in him. It's not sometimes, all the time, and figure out what's gonna work. But remember also to be faithful, to work hard, and try to do it with a cheerful mind and attitude. I hope you all have a blessed and wonderful day.